Welcome in to Knights TV, Tommy the V, Viola, and a very special interview today. And as we commemorate the 24-year history of Knights Stadium, 24 great years here at this ballpark, beginning in 1990, and of course, this the final season at this beautiful ballpark, as we'll transition over to Uptown Charlotte, beginning in 2014. Well, today I'm joined by a very special guest. He was the Media Relations Director in 1992 and was here from 92 to 97. And of course, in those days, you had the Cubs as an affiliate, the Indians as affiliate, and the Florida Marlins as an affiliate as well. And I'm very pleased and very happy to sit down and talk to Karl Lyles. And Karl, first off, thanks for coming back to the ballpark today and taking out a few minutes. Great to sit down with you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Always fun to come back to the ballpark, and a lot of great memories here.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk to you about, Karl. First off, this stadium, of course, 1990 was built, and 90, 91, the Cubs again in 92, and that was your first year here in this ballpark. First off, take me through some of that time for you in 92 with the Cubs and the fans here. What was that like back then?
Yeah, 92, we were still a Double-A team. It was our last year as Double-A baseball, Southern League. A lot of anticipation building towards Triple-A baseball. So, the Cubs team, we didn't have a real strong team that year, but definitely a learning process for me, getting to know the media in the area and the team. Really not a lot of big names on that team, but a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah, and one of the names that I've as I look back and do some research, Rusty Crockett was a name back then, and you laugh, and it seems like that was a lot of people's expressions as he was a fun guy. Talk to me about Rusty Crockett a little bit.
Rusty was, he's just 5'7", really wasn't a baseball build to him. One of the Cubs guys that came through was Jimmy Pearsall, played in the major leagues for years and years, and Jimmy he's a nut. But one of the things I always remember about him saying about Rusty Crockett is, gosh, I love that kid, but he's got to get a job. But, Rusty would do anything to get on base. And one of the things he was best known for was getting hit by pitch. He led the Southern League year after year in that category. Nothing else, just hit by pitch.
Yeah, he was and of course you talk Jimmy Pearsall, a guy who ran the bases backwards after hitting a home run. So
Exactly.
So that's very interesting. So for him to say that about Rusty Crockett, I mean, he must have been a real character.
He was, and despite his size, I think everyone on that team kind of saw him as a clubhouse leader, and he spent several years here.
Talk to me about that transition. Obviously, as you said, they were a Southern League team, a Double-A affiliate of the Cubs in '92. Of course, when they came over here, they were the Double-A affiliate. 1993, things changed for this team, for this organization. They went from a Southern League affiliate, Double-A team, to a Triple-A affiliate. They joined the International League, one of two teams that year. The Ottawa Lynx also joined. But what was that like? What was that transition like for first off, for the staff and for everybody here at the ballpark?
I think the expectations for the staff right away, as soon as that '92 season ended, it's a higher level of baseball. There's more expectations on all of us. We had to up our game. So we had several big events being named as the Cleveland Indians AAA affiliate, so we built up toward that. And then when we saw some of the names that we were going to have on this team, Cleveland took care of us. Jim Thome being the biggest name. Later that year we got Manny Ramirez. They filled in all the gaps with guys that had major league experience. That team was loaded.
Yeah, no, definitely loaded, and you look back, and I have a chance, obviously, to look back now at stats, and you see they won 86 games that year. They won the championship, but before we even talk about that, they were led by Charlie Manuel, a guy who, of course, a future major league manager, and took the Philadelphia Phillies to a World Series and won it in 2008. But must have been nice to have Charlie Manuel here day in and day out.
Yeah, Charlie remains one of my favorite people. I haven't been in touch with him in years, but while he was here, I wish I fully appreciated, just how good a guy he was. He's so laid back, so easy to deal with, very willing to talk to the media, which made my job so much easier. But just such a great guy, and how could you not like someone with that Southern drawl and just so laid back?
Yeah, and we had a chance to talk to Charlie Manuel, and he absolutely enjoyed his time here, and he was a guy who also played in Charlotte, played with the Hornets back in the day as well. So he had some great stories. But I wanted to ask you about a young Jim Thome, 22-year-old, third baseman at the time, a future Hall of Famer, a real star in this game. What was it like seeing him on a daily basis?
Well, he came in with a lot of hype that he was one of the Indians' top prospects. Didn't start the season very strong at all. In April, I think he had a double. That was his only extra base hit in the whole month of April. But June, July, May, June, and July, he just took off. And I remember at some point, just before he was called up, our general manager, Bill Lavelle, telling all of us in a staff meeting, you guys really need to appreciate what this guy is doing. You're not going to see this again. And that was very true. The type of numbers he put up in that 2.5, 3 month period were phenomenal. Just every at bat was something you really wanted to watch every pitch.
Yeah, it must have been. I mean, obviously hit 332, and then won the most valuable player that year. And then you talked about Manny Ramirez. So Jim Thome leaves the team, gets promoted to the majors, and then here comes Manny Ramirez, of course, a future star as well. Early days of Manny Ramirez, what was he like?
We were looking at some pictures of Manny back in '93, and pre-dreadlocks, and just very mild-mannered back then. Still finding his way, I guess, but he'd get to the plate and he had that high leg kick before he'd swing the bat. The ball just jumped off his bat. He came in and had an immediate impact. Was with the team for about a month, and then he's gone. So to have two players back-to-back like that was really special.
Yeah, it must have been. And then you had a guy, Sam Horn, 38 home runs that year. You talked about a little while ago how they really helped you guys out. They signed some big-time veterans and had some good young prospects. Sam Horn was one of those big-time veterans and a guy who had hit home runs in the majors even before and had 30 home runs in Pawtucket not too before that. But what was he like? I mean, watching batting practice, Sam Horn, Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, you must have saw some long home runs hit.
Batting practice was fun, and we go back to Charlie Manuel, and he had a nickname for him. He just called him Big Horn, Big Horn. But God, Sam could hit the ball, and when he hit home runs, there was no if that's going to clear. It was well out of here. Back then, you didn't have to clear all three fences to be a home run. We had that gap in between the home run fences, but all of his, I think, were over all three and then some. Fun to watch.
Yeah, it must have been in a very special year. As we're talking with Karl Lyles here, the media relations director from the 1993 championship team, first season in the International League, and they won the Governor's Cup that year. What was that like? That must have been a special time.
It was. I got to travel with the team, and back then when George Shinn owned the team and also owned the Hornets late in the season, when basketball was over, we got the Hornets charter. So we traveled well. So late in the season, I took all the road trips with the team. I don't know if that still happens or not, but that was a lot of fun to spend that much time with the team and not just be at the ballpark for home games. So as we went into the playoffs, I remember going to Rochester's old Silver Stadium. It was an old ballpark built in the 20s, and the press box literally sat on the roof of that stadium. Good vantage point from there. But I remember the final game was won in Rochester, and going down into the clubhouse with the plastic all over the lockers and champagne being strewn about, and the batting coach, Louis Isaac, just giving me the biggest hug.
Yeah.
I obviously knew of Louis all year long. Didn't deal with him as much as Charlie, but Louis was, oh my gosh, he was just so excited, and it was great to see that.
Yeah, it must have been, and what a special time in your life too. I mean, it must have been very exciting. Here you are. I'm not. How old are you at that point?
Gosh, I'm 28, 29, something like that.
Yes, so 28 years old at that point. Really, probably early on in your career, must have been really even more special to be around that team and to be around those legends. I mean, really, when you look at those guys, I mean, not only in minor league baseball, but in Major League Baseball. I mean, those guys you're talking about are legends. Must have been really special.
Well, Tommy, you know that you deal with players on a day-to-day basis, and how are you to know that someone on this year's team is going to be a Hall of Famer? I couldn't have imagined that Jim Thome would go on to hit 600 home runs. So to look back at that and to be able to tell my kids, hey, I knew him, is really a neat thing.
Yeah, must have been a very neat, of course, and I'm sure you've followed his career over the years. 94, another winning season for them in their last year as the Indians affiliate. Then the Marlins come in. 1995, the Florida Marlins. Take me back to that. I mean, what was that like now having a new affiliate coming to town?
Felt confident that we'd been through this before, but at the same time, sad that we had built this relationship with Cleveland and we knew those players and kind of knew the system and some of the players that may be coming. So to switch was bittersweet. Florida Marlins were literally a very new team, new organization at that time. So having to learn what that organization was all about. And new players, and we certainly didn't have the teams with Florida early on that we had with Cleveland, so we got spoiled. But at the same time, new cast and crew, and it was a fun time to be part of Knights baseball.
Yeah, no, you're right, but you did have some young guys and guys like Luis Castillo and Edgar Renteria, and one guy specifically I want to ask you about is Livan Hernandez. He came over from Cuba, 1996, made his really professional debut here. What was that like?
Livan came in with a lot of hype to him. Didn't speak English very well. He could understand more than he could speak. But I remember his first day at the ballpark, a flood of media coming in, and that didn't stop with just one day. There was more and more media requests. In fact, I took him to the stations up in Charlotte, and the NBC affiliate up there is WCNC. They had a Spanish-speaking reporter do a lengthy interview with Livan that was it went out nationwide.
So obviously, okay, so Livan Hernandez and that really impressive run that he had, and the Marlins go on, and a young team, but then they go on and they go to a World Series, and a lot of those guys that played here in Charlotte. When they played, of course, the Cleveland Indians. So you had guys that played here from the Indians and guys that played here from the Marlins. Who'd you root for?
It wasn't that I rooted for any one team. It was all those guys, all the guys that were here. It was exciting to see them on the mound or at the plate or in the field. All people that came through Charlotte, and we all, as a staff, knew. And we always had a World Series party upstairs. We called it Home Plate Cafe at that time. So that was extra special that year. Here. Cleveland and Florida, who knew? Back to back, our affiliates and all those guys facing each other. I think we counted 17 players that were in that World Series had played here in Charlotte.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And as we said, I mean, guys like Edgar Renteria, who of course had a big part in that World Series, and then the Indians. I mean, and led by Charlie Manuel. So really impressive, and a lot of great guys have come through here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there was one guy maybe that you were most fond of, or really had a good relationship with, or you enjoyed coming to the ballpark every day to see that guy, is there that one guy out there?
I don't point to one guy. I remember, it's been so long now. I can't believe it's been 20 or more years. But some things will remind me of some of the goofy stuff. I remember Jim Thome down in the locker room before a game, trying to get him for an interview, and he's in there all by himself trying to jump up and hit his elbow on the ceiling. That's important to him that day. I can remember Jeff Kunkel, a utility guy, played everywhere on the field. He was a great golfer. He always wanted to talk golf. That wasn't baseball to him. I remember Chad Oj as a pitcher, kind of a unique last name, and ironically, that was the same year that O.J. Simpson went on his slow drive, and having our ticket manager run up the stairs and saying, "OJ's on the run, OJ's on the run," and I'm thinking, what did Chad OJ do? But it was OJ Simpson. So I don't know. There's no one particular favorite player. Just a lot of memories, a lot of stories from my time here.
Yeah, no, great stories. And just want to ask you about this ballpark. Last year here, 24 years of this ballpark. What memories do you have overall of the ballpark, whether it's seeing some fans or just the different amenities here? What are some of your memories here?
Before the season starts every year, you have the Fan Fest. And my role in that was always taking fans on stadium tours. And that was just a lot of fun because there's a lot of stuff to this stadium that the average Joe doesn't know. And George Shinn's initial plans were to maybe have an NFL team here, which explains why the locker rooms have so many lockers and they're so expansive. So taking people through that and fielding all their questions and just it was a great place to work. I'm hopeful that it still is. But knowing some of the history of how the stadium was built, why it was configured the way it was, and the relationships that I built with staff members here, I keep in touch with a lot of those people even now.
That's good, and I guess that will lead us to our final question here. And the one thing that you'll miss about this ballpark, what is it?
Sitting in the press box. That view of home plate behind those glass windows is something that is part of me. I didn't spend an awful lot of time here, 5-6 years, whatever it was, and that adds up to countless hours of preparing for games, being there for games, and the wrap up afterwards. But I wouldn't change it for anything. That the view of home plate and being able to see, on Friday, Saturday nights, especially a full stadium, and the noise of the crowd, and the smell of the ballpark. It's distinctive. It's like nothing else.
It really is. Karl, thank you today for spending some time with us as we look back at the 24 years of this ballpark. And 20 years ago, 1993, a special season. And you were right there. You were a big part of it. And we thank you for your time today. And we hope to get you back to a few more games before the end of this year.
You better. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. There he is, Karl Lyles, the Media Relations Director from 1992 to 1997. He was here in 1993, a very special year in this ballpark, and 24 special years in the history of Knights Stadium, and I'm glad we had a few minutes to sit down with him today. We'll have more on Knights TV throughout the rest of the season, and I am Tommy Viola. We'll see you next time right here on Knights TV.